up. We'll talk Christian Coleman. Headline here, he's cleared to run.
Mm-hmm.
Everything past that, Lincoln, Jenny, quite murky, to say the least.
Yes, as I was wading through those murky details yesterday, writing up the initial report, it was clear as mud, actually, after first reading the press release from USADA. And then, since then, many more details have come out. Kevin and Lincoln and I were just reading a blog written by Alan Abramson, in which I suppose the lawyer had weighed in on an interview with him on exactly what had happened. There was 1 mistest, 2 filing failures. And we're just kind of parsing through all of those, the minutia of this. But basically the takeaway I had when I was first writing the report was, okay, mistest, filing failure, what's the real difference? Because if you miss a test, can't you just chalk it up to it being a filing failure in general?
Yeah.
What makes them do any investigative work to determine whether or not it was actually a missed test?
Yeah, and it looks like from that report, the difference being if it came outside the window of the hour that the athlete is supposed to be there, or if they find out the athlete wasn't there, even if they're not there to take the test. I mean, live by the rules, die by the rules, right? So you have these very specific demands that you need to meet, and the number that's getting thrown around is 1 minute because they waited a minute too late to initiate the test when he wasn't there. If they had done it presumably a minute earlier, then it would have gone down as a missed test and not a filing failure, which means they couldn't have backdated that test to the beginning of the quarter. I know we're losing everybody here in
I mean,
weeds.
it's all right. They lost me when I was just reading about exactly what happened. So
but I mean, that's the whole game here is the rules. I mean, it's Russian roulette, I guess, with your career, but he's in, and now we have the full range. We have the full range of takes, Lincoln. We have all the way from USADA's to blame. Why did they put him through this? Like, why did this become public if this was not a legitimate 3 violations within 12 months, all the way to he's dirty?
Yeah, as is typical a lot of times with doping cases that wind up getting so-called dropped like this, it's kind of a track and field Rorschach test, if you will, where you have a lot of people, like you mentioned, rushing to the defense of Coleman saying, this is an embarrassment for USADA. They should have never brought this, which you can see that because they ultimately dropped their case. They withdrew the hearing. So in that sense, yes, no, they should not have brought that. On the other side, you see Coleman was very fortunate here, very lucky that there are some, I'll use the T word, technicalities that allowed him, despite the fact that it looks like these 3 issues, 2 filings, 1 missed test, occurred within a 12-month window. The first one, the filing goes back to April 1st because that's the way it is stated in the rules. So in that regard, it should have never, quote unquote, happened. And that this should have never come public if they would have looked down at this. I will say, it looks like Coleman has a good defense team on his side, and USADA maybe needs to understand the rules just a little bit better because...
Well, they need to clarify it, and they said that
they're rewriting the rule for 2021.
Well, as they should.
Which, that seems like an awful long time to rewrite such an important rule.
You got, do it now.
Right after the Olympics? What?
Maybe it takes a while to get it in the bylaws.
Yeah, and I will just hope, he doesn't owe us anything, and he tweeted afterwards, this is Coleman, the only people that he looks for advice are people he can call, which, I mean, like I was saying off the air, I think that's all of us, so that's not anything unique to him. Obviously, he knows he's going to be scrutinized. It'll be interesting to see if he has any explanation for this. He doesn't owe us any of that, though. He was cleared. He has no doping history as it comes down to the rules.
Never tested positive.
Of course, never tested positive. There's plenty of people that never tested positive. But, he technically is, only missed 1 test. That's 2 away from being a doping violation. He doesn't, like I said, owe us anything here. I would like for him to offer an explanation, kind of like of what exactly was going on, because I think his some publicity, good publicity would help him in the sense that, look, these are all, circumstances out of my control. Yes, I missed 1 test in January of 2019, but the others were crazy circumstances that, they came at times and I was confused, and then they ultimately, had
Looked like a lot of travel.
Had to leave, and I'm a globetrotter. I'm all over the place. I think this can easily be explained on his end. I don't anticipate that happening. He's going to be concentrating on obviously winning the 100-meter title. There's going to be people. I don't think it's fair to speculate whether he's clean or dirty. It's not fair to say,
Right.
oh, this is suspicious. Oh, this. If you wouldn't apply that to everyone.
Skeptical voice?
Well, there's people on Twitter, and I mean,
there are people on Twitter.
Oh, there are
There's
many
people on
on
Twitter.
Confirm that there are people
I
on
can
Twitter.
100% confirm
There
lots of
are,
people
in
on
fact.
Twitter.
Thank you, social media
That are
expert Felicia.
basically taking this as oh, he's got something to hide,
Of
and I
course,
just
of
don't
course,
think
of
that's fair to air that at
But-
all. But it would help him tremendously, I think, if he's willing to stand up and say, look, this is what happened. I did get fortunate. However, I did not break the rules. I have nothing to hide. This is exactly what happened on each circumstance. I think that can help him because he's cleared. He's only going to hurt himself by being indignant and continuing to say, the only people I seek for advice are my friends and family. Of course, yes, I'm not going to go ask a hobo on the street if I should buy or rent a house. But about this, try to come up and let us know what exactly happened so this doesn't follow you the rest of your career.
It sounds like it's going to follow him the rest of his career. That's just for a group of people, it's going to follow him the rest of his career. That's just the reality of track in this era. It sounds like from reading this report, a lot of times he was asking, "Oh, I'm not here, but can you test me here?" Which shows a misunderstanding of the rules,
Yeah.
Right.
The whole idea of the whereabouts system is you're there for that 1 hour, and if you need to change it, you need to change it. But by the time they're there and they're ready to collect a sample, you can't say, "Oh, can you just send somebody over here?"
Right.
And that's interesting to me. It's not surprising, again, because we talk about track and field all the time and how a lot of people around it, involved in it, intimately connected to it, don't know every little tiny rule. Now, it's his job. He needs to do it. But that was just an interesting part to me when he's saying, okay, yeah, test me, I'm at Drake. But they're like, no, your information says you're supposed to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes me wonder how many filing failures and missed tests actually happen throughout the course of the year, because often they're not reported unless they meet a certain threshold of times. And so you have to think, like, is this common? Do many athletes miss tests? Does it happen maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years? How frequent does this happen? And we saw it with Brianna Rollins, and that was, according to her explanation, it was pretty easily explained away. It was, she didn't fully understand some of the rules.
Right.
So, I mean, it just makes me wonder, like, how many athletes do miss tests.
And just to defend Coleman here a little bit, because I can play both sides of the fence quite well here.
Was that a flex? What a weird flex.
He could say easily right now, USADA didn't know their own rules. How was that? I'm expected to know the rules better than USADA.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm an athlete. I'm 2 years out of college, and I'm trying to win a world title. They're responsible for that even more than I am, and they messed up, so don't look at me. That's probably what I would do in a sense. Yeah. Maybe I would try to explain it a little bit. He owes us nothing, though. Let's remember that. He owes us nothing, so he may not say anything
and
about
this. And the general public, if he makes statements, it's only going to elevate it, which is then it's going to catch on in the general public, which you don't want your name associated with that. So look, we're all playing PR coach here now to Coleman, so we're a little bit away from the main issue. We talked about this last week, obviously a bunch. Talked about it on the podcast. Got a bunch of emails from people. Oh, you're naive cycling, and why would you risk it? Like a positive, if you can, you just get the benefit of the doubt. If you miss a test, obviously he's dirty. And I just go back to the Rollins situation. It's like, do people think that meant that she was doping? Because I don't get that interpretation.
No.
And again, maybe I'm living in a very Pollyannish bubble here where nobody says any untoward words, but I thought because she laid it out and because she explained exactly where she was, that people had sort of moved on from that. She paid the penalty. She should have paid the penalty, and she moved on with her career. But nobody wants to get caught being overly optimistic anymore. Everybody wants to say, I told you, I was there. It's this bigger thing that you're not seeing. And that's the space that we inhabit right now.
Yeah. I kind of disagree with the whole explanation thing. I think that a lot of people will just see doping in a headline and then they just move on.
Yeah.
And so even if he did issue a statement, sure, there's going to be people like us who will read into it and try to understand exactly what happened, but a lot of people are just reacting, just seeing doping plus name in a headline and not reading further into it. So I feel like that's, like you said, it's
two schools of thought,
incendiary
right?
too. It's like they continue putting stuff out to try to clear your name. And people oh, you look even guiltier because you're trying to defend yourself, right? I mean, I think that he's going to have his people eventually come out and put out a larger statement. You can see that the PR is already starting to happen a little bit with this article coming out. I think there's more to come. I don't think Christian Coleman's going to be the one who's going to be necessarily facilitating that on his own.
Lincoln gets a chance to ask him in Doha.
Yeah.
Yes, he will.
There you
We'll
go.
see what we do. It's interesting. How focused will he be in Doha coming off of this? Obviously,
Very.
still expecting.
Coleman's very.
Yes.
Still obviously the favorite for the 100, but this adds obviously a gigantic wrinkle to the men's 100.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, this might be as much as we get.
Yeah.
And if we do, again, live by the rules, die by the rules.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very, very, very close call, but under these same rules, he's cleared to compete. And then moving forward, there's nothing you can do to create trust anymore, right? Everybody's going to hold this in there, and unless someone's able to follow him around 24/7 for the rest of his career as an independent chronicler of everything he does, or any
Hit
other,
us up, Christian.
yeah, or any other track and field athlete, there's always going to be questions and doubts. Even if this never even happened, people would still say, "Oh yeah, this person," or "You can't run that fast unless you're doing this other thing on the side."